Hi guys, Maikeru here. This is my quick guide on the moons of Peril, so without further ado, let's get right into it. This is the equipment that I would advise you taking. This is my budget setup, or like a mid-game Iron Man setup. The new zombie axe from the Defender of Varrow is an amazing weapon to use here, as it's a nice in-between of Dragon Scimitar and Whip, so if you're mid-game, this is the perfect weapon. Although, obviously, if you have better weapons, you can take those. And for me personally, my preferred setup is Darrows actually, and it is super strong here. I'll get more into like why camp in low HP is fairly safe and such as we get through this video. In both the budget and the preferred setup, the barrows armor, the tank armor is very important. So do make sure you're taking the tank armor, as tank is super needed here, as you will take way too much damage with low defense gear, and especially the blood one that heals when it hits you, you want it to not hit you. I'll explain more about that in just a second, so let's get right into it. When starting out, I would use the northwest entrance, as it seems like the best place to set up. What I mean by setup is you don't have to take any supplies in here, you can get the supplies yourself. So if you run to the camp that you built during the quest, you can take some tea to get full energy here, and then on the supply crate next to it, I would take some hunting and herblore supplies. You also want to take the herblore supplies a couple of times. They do have a cooldown of about 5 to 10 seconds, so just do a little bit of skilling and then come back and grab more herblore supplies to get more vials. You harvest the grubby tree for the worms, and then you crush the worms with a pestle or mortar and use them on the vials to get your prayer restore potion, and it's actually a super combat potion in one, so you also don't have to bring your own combat potions, which is amazing. You make 2 doses, but the higher herbal level you have, the more chances you have to make additional doses, so you can make 4 doses if you get those 2 additional dose procs. If you don't have a high herbal level, it's just going to take you a little tiny bit longer to prep. You set up your traps here with the stones. You just tap each one of the stones once and you build 3 different traps. Then if you shake the bush right nearby, you will cause the lizards to come out and you can catch them. You don't have a 100% catch rate. The higher hunter level you have, the more likely you are to catch, so it's just going to take longer at lower levels. I would do this until you have about 6 potions and probably about 6 or 7 lizards. Each lizard you cook gives you free food, and the food heals a third of your cooking level. So, for example, if you have 66 cooking, it's going to heal you 22, which is a really good piece of food. And the higher levels you get, the more it heals, up to 33 at 99 cooking. So moving into the first room, it is the Blue Moon room, and you just interact with the statue and go down. There's highlighted circles on the floor. You want to stand in those at all times. You don't have to pray protection prayers here, as protection prayers have no effect on these. That's why tank armor is so important, because you want them to hit zeros. Although do use piety or any other stat boosting prayers, because they do help. It always rotates in a clockwise direction. After 2 full attacks of 3 hits each, it will swap to a different circle. And once it's done a half circle, it will start doing mechanics, and there's 2 mechanics for every single boss fight. Every boss fight works the same way in this regard. A good thing to note on why you want tank armor is every time they hit you with a 0, the other hits following it will always be 0 as well. But if they hit their first hit, they have a chance of hitting their second hit, and then if they hit their second hit, they have a chance of hitting their third hit. Their hits get stronger every hit, so the first hit's going to hit about 1 to 5, second hit's 6 to 10, and the last hit is actually 10 to 20. So essentially, if it maxes all of them, you can actually get hit for about 34 damage all at once. The reason why you want defense is to make it hit zeros. Although this one in particular, the Blue Moon, has a special effect that does cause your defense to be ignored. When it says in the chat, the Blue Moon pierces your defense, the cold is starting to get in, that means that you're pretty likely to get hit 3 times because your defense is nullified. That makes it a little bit spooky camping low HP with Darrows here, as you can see in that clip. Don't do me and either get ready to eat or preemptively eat on this circumstance. The reason why it's pretty safe from camping Darrows is because you know if it hits a 0, it's going to hit more zeros, right? So if you see it hit the first 1 or 2, then feel free to just eat. One thing that I will recommend if you're using Darrows is to camp Redemption Prayer, as that can trigger pretty easily and be a little bit of a fail-safe. The first mechanic of the Blue Moon is it encases your weapon in ice, and to get it out you need to punch it. One of the ice will be glowing of the 3, and you want to punch that one. You'll always max hit unarmed here, and you can get 2 hits in before moving out for the ice underneath of you, and then you'll dodge that by moving 1 or 2 squares. Do this until you've killed your ice block, and then you'll get your weapon back. Then you probably just have to wait a little tiny bit longer, and the phase is done, and you're back on your highlighted circle. In another half of a circle rotation, it will do the second mechanic. The second mechanic is braziers on the east and west need to be lit, otherwise the boss heals. You want to dodge the tornadoes, and if a tornado hits you, it hits you for a little bit of damage and makes you walk. You'll have to toggle your run back on if you do get hit by them. Some people choose to ignore this because the healing isn't that crazy high, but if you don't have the best gear, I definitely would advise lighting the braziers to stop it healing. If you have great gear, then you can always be lazy and not bother. Next up is the Blood Moon. This one is, in my opinion, the most annoying one, because the special effect on this one with the 3 hits is not that it ignores your defense, but it heals for 1 times, 2 times, and 5 times damage. So you never really want it hitting that 3rd hit, so that's why we have that tank armor. So as you can see in this slowdown clip, I got hit a 3 into a 6 into a 10, and then he actually healed a 50 because it's 5 times heal on that 10 hit, and it could have hit 20 to heal a maximum of 100, which is very, very detrimental in terms of DPS. That's why we want that tank armor to make it hit zeros as much as possible. The first mechanic he does is spawns blood circles on the floor, and they just deal damage to you if you're standing in them. Just move away when they spawn. With Daroks, I sometimes stand in them to get my HP lower, but obviously that's, very situational. His second mechanic is that he spawns these Jaguars. He initially hits you for 15 when this phase starts, so you definitely want to be eating a little bit if you're low HP. And then he spawns this square of blood around him, which you want to stand in its last tick. It will spawn, grow bigger, and once it's grown full, you want to wait a tick and then stand in it. It takes a little bit to get used to the timing, but if you stand in it too early, you take some damage and he heals, and if you don't stand in it at all, you take a bit more damage and he heals. And when you hit the Jaguar here, you heal. So typically what you do is you attack the Jaguar, walk in that last tick, and get back to attacking the Jaguar so you heal and the boss doesn't heal himself. Once you get the timing down, it works very, very well. Also, the last one, the Eclipse Moon, is my personal favourite, especially with Daroks, and it's because of his first mechanic. His first mechanic is he pushes you into the center, and you need to face the direction of the spawn by clicking underneath of it or towards that direction to make your character face. If you're facing that direction, you'll parry the hit, so you'll get hit for 0 and you'll deal a bunch of damage to him. These clones hit pretty quickly, so with a 7 speed attack weapon, like a Crystal Halberd or God Swords if you're not using Daroks, or Daroks itself, it will hit super hard and it will hit really quickly. So as you can see here, I just click underneath each one that spawns as soon as I've parried the previous one. So as soon as you see the XP drop or the animation, whatever's easier for you, you then click under the next one that spawned and then again, and it spawns in sets of 3 each time. If you do this correctly, you'll deal a crazy amount of damage and you'll also take 0 damage yourself. There's been many times, especially with Darok, where I just complete the whole fight during this phase because I'm hitting so hard, just like here. I didn't even see the second mechanic this time. The fight starts at a random place, so this might not be your first mechanic, but if it is, you can finish the fight pretty quickly. If it isn't your first mechanic, you will have to deal with the Eclipse that goes around the arena. All you have to do is walk behind it as soon as it starts moving. I walk by default by holding control and clicking, and then instead of running, I will walk. As soon as I see the Eclipse move, I control click to the other corner and I will walk over there at the same speed of the Eclipse. Then you run around it ready to start again, and by the time you get there, it's about a tick or 2 later and it will start moving again, and you want to control click again on each side. And you just walk with it until it's done a full square and you're back where you started, then you get back to the boss fight. Simple. One tip I will give is you can restore a bunch of prayer by catching moonlight moths around between your boss fights. So they will be in every single arena as soon as you finish the boss fight before you move on to the other one. If you equip a butterfly net and catch them, you can get full prayer again before entering, which really helps with the supply management. And that is it for this quick guide. Hopefully it was useful to you and you got a bunch of information in a short time span as possible. I try to cram all of the information about these bosses into one video, so do give it a like if you did enjoy it. Let me know in the comments down below if I could have made it better in any way, and give me some feedback down there. And as always, until next time, see ya.